We have nothing for our young people, but it's just disheartening that a city of our size has such a high poverty rate. We just have to make smarter decisions. I mean, I'm all for the programs that are really meaningful and that's going to help the people.
People are making money, they can spend more time at home with their children. We have less crime.
That's right.
I am in support of anything that's going to increase the revenue flowing through Chatham County.
I will represent all of Port Wentworth. There's so much opportunity ahead, but we need the right leadership. It's time to make smart decisions.
How you can put a massive warehouse in a residential community, and we've not had a leader to bring any type of unity. You know, they're all throwing each other under the bus. Quality of life is so diminished. Keep the community intact.
My core values, which are compassion, ownership, right. We've heard a lot of empty, broken promises. I'm excited to be a part of the new Port Wentworth.
But yet you're pushing people out of their community to put them where? It's time for the communities to start winning some. I want you to make our city better.
It's time for an adult to sit at the table.
Our city is a speed trap.
They're electing their friends.
You know, they're all throwing each other under the bus.
It's totally dysfunctional.
It's just stagnant.
I just moved here about a year ago. There's a right way to do the right thing, and there's a wrong way to do the right thing.
The following show and broadcast is a production of Better Savannah, an independent expenditure committee dedicated to better policy outcomes at the state and local level. The views, opinions, and statements made by the hosts and/or their guests do not necessarily reflect the views of Better Savannah.
What's up, John?
Oh, I feel like I'm in the theater watching previews.
It's a especially long intro tonight. This is our regularly scheduled. This is episode 66 of Better Savannah's podcast titled "The State of Play." A lot going on here at the end of an election season. But I pointed out to you offline, the last time we were live, we were still a little concerned that the Braves might not even beat the Dodgers, and we recorded all those episodes and put them out over a space of 10 days. And in that 10 days, not only did they beat the Dodgers, they won game 1 of the series. Now, they lost last night. We are recording live on Thursday, October the 28th.
7th yesterday.
Yeah, the 27th yesterday they lost. So what do they have tonight off, right?
Yeah, but they come back tomorrow night in Atlanta for several games. So anything could happen here, Chuck.
I mean, what, do they have 3 straight in Atlanta? Is that how it ends up working?
I think they stay in Atlanta.
Is that how it ends up working, huh?
Yeah, but I don't think that's quite fair. I could be wrong, but there are at least 3 in Atlanta, and then maybe back to Texas, of all places.
Houston, baby. That guy, that furniture store owner, he's got the largest bet ever made in the history of sports betting.
Pillow?
Yeah, no, not the Mike guy, but it's a local furniture guy in Houston. He bets on the Astros every year to win the World Series, and he's won big a couple of times and obviously lost a lot of times too. Again, super long intro. Thanks to everybody who watched all the way through those ads. We got a lot of ad campaigns going right now, John. We got a lot of elections. We're going to have a live election night reaction episode next Tuesday. Probably members come on. Only. Yeah, members only on Tuesday night. And then Thursday, we're going to have a free, regular show, again, where we react to kind of the results after having a day or two to have absorbed them. So just, kind of running through the list right here, and I'll get to our other topics down the road for tonight. Just running through the list, we've got Tybee Island. We got Matt Kitchens, Elaine Magruder out there running. We're hoping for those two. We're really pushing Mac hard because he's kind of the spearhead against the establishment on this STVR issue. And this is the number one priority issue for those voters. So just fascinating to see how that turns out. I personally believe Tybee's going to have some of the highest voter turnout amongst the county. Yeah, as small as it is, you're probably right. I will tell you, because I don't think I shared this with you, Chuck, but Mac sent me an email post from the realtor group. VR owners. Yeah. Sure. How bad was it? Well, you would have think the Napoleonic period, the French Revolution, had started, and there were mass executions all across the island, and it was pretty belligerent, and it basically was a call with every single council members and candidates' email address and contact points to tell them to back off. Don't mix with short-term vacation rentals or else. And it was heavy-handed. And like I said, to me, it was belligerent, which I think is a funny way to go about, as sardonic and sarcastic as I can be. I just thought it was rich from a... It reminds me of Chris Matthews. Do you remember Chris Matthews on MSNBC? Hardball, baby. Yeah. It reminds me of Chris Matthews' reaction after Bernie Sanders won Nevada in 2016. I don't know if you felt something warm running down his face. He said that, he thought people like him were going to be in guillotines in the streets, and it's like, you'd think, the simplest of regulations to stop you from making a bunch of money, and all of a sudden we're in the gulag.
Yeah.
I think it's laughable.
Yeah.
And again, if you want to say that this should be litigated as a property rights issue, look, the courts are to everyone's avail. I, for one, support all three branches of government. If Tybee Island puts this enforcement in and you don't like it, you should sue and let the courts settle it out. That's not the responsibility of local government leaders. Their responsibility is to do what's in the best interest of all of their citizens. And then if they overstep their bound, the courts will let them know. And I think that this is an area where the courts should be forced to intervene if the city's wrong.
Well, a lot of cases have already come and gone, Chuck, and every court thus far has ruled that because you have the right to rent your place on a long-term basis, 30 days or longer, month to month, 6-month lease, 12-month lease, you are not being overly punished or restricted by a local government regulation. So I don't know how effective. Right now, it's a lot of bravado, and
it's political will. Who's got the stronger political will?
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't live at Tybee. I don't know the intricacies, but the little bit that I know tells me that their city manager and their city attorney are very weak and have historically been all about protecting, businesses and not residential quality of life as much. So I think they've got a tough battle on their hands because, win, lose, or draw, there's going to be a new reform majority on that city council. So how those two administrators, city manager, city attorney, respond to a newly constituted, progressive, citizen-oriented, quality of life-oriented council is going to be something to watch.
Yeah, so moving back in closer to town here, on the west end, west side here, we've got Garden City and Port Wentworth, and Garden City is kind of got one race that's wide open and one race that's one-on-one. Donna Williams, who we endorse, appears to be just dominating. That ad playthrough is huge. Obviously, she seems like a very strong leader, a potential future state representative, maybe, somebody who clearly gets the regional approach, but also the hyper-local issues. And it's just been a very smooth campaign over there. I've heard some rumblings about the District 5 race, but, we kind of chose for good reason to kind of just leave that out, in terms of endorsement, because it was kind of so wide open. Some good candidates, but, hopefully Donna is a big enough addition to that Garden City Council to make some change, because they're right next door to these Port Wentworth elections. And this has kind of been quite a few days for these elections, so we've had this sign war going on out there, John, right? So,
in Garden City?
No, in Port Wentworth. I'm switching to Port Wentworth now. In Port Wentworth, you've had these signs that are being taken up seemingly only from the challengers. Yeah. You got code enforcement and police doing this work. I'm not really
buying anything.
Yeah, I watched, and I didn't get a chance to jack it for this episode, but the mayor, Gary Norton, was interviewed by WTOC, and it's just all hands up in the air. Well, I didn't give the order. It's who's on third. The city manager says the mayor did it. The mayor says the police chief did it. The police chief says the city manager did it, and around we go.
That city is a textbook example of reform needed yesterday. It has been one disaster, public relations nightmare event after another. And this is really sad and tragic for a city that's doubled its population in the last census.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about Van Johnson's State of the City speech a little bit later on in the episode. And he mentioned a lot about the growth of Chatham County and about what that's going to do for this area. But just back to Port Wentworth, the candidates had a forum where Don Baker from WTOC moderated, It was at one of the hotels off of 95 there.
Hosted by the Chamber of Commerce.
It was hosted by the local Chamber of Commerce, and none of the incumbents showed up, citing a conflict of interest because they ripped the contract away from that chamber for the hotel motel tax money and gave it to some of their friends, basically. You've got you got Joe Smith and Janet Hester, whom we're supporting. The numbers of reach we've had, and Gabrielle Nelson, I'm going to get to her in a minute, but the number of reaches we've had on Joe Smith citywide, I mean, they just so far outpaced the last 4 years of turnout in that city. It's hard to see Joe losing. And Janet is probably still the toughest race because it's 3 ways and there's no runoffs. No runoffs in this city like in Savannah, where you got to get 50% plus 1. It's just a plurality. So I think there might be some concern there. But again, we're talking about, 425 votes is going to win that election. It's not a lot of people in terms of the historic turnout. So far in Chatham County, total absentee and early in-person votes have not even cracked 6,000 yet. It's just under 6,000. It's low. This is projected to be a low turnout. I spoke with a member of the elections board earlier this week, John, and he said that, if turnout doesn't increase, the institutional favorites are favored, meaning incumbents and, people like Edna Jackson at 165, which we'll get to in a minute.
Well, she's not an incumbent, but I get you.
Yeah.
She's got the name recognition.
Institutional name ID, yes, is what I would call it.
Yeah.
So, in the last 36 hours, we had this story break in Port Wentworth where, Alfonso Rabeau, candidate for 1st District, sent out a mailer, seemingly to several hundred mailboxes. There's only like 500 mailboxes in the district total.
Really?
Okay. So this mailer, John, it went out and it's got a photo of Sheriff Johnny Wiltshire and a photo of our senior state senator, Senator Lester Jackson. And this photo says, we agree that Alfonso Rabeau is the best candidate for Port Wentworth. So that's an endorsement, right? You didn't agree that language is an endorsement.
Sure.
Right? So
when you use the senator's image and connect the comment to the image, yeah, that's an endorsement.
Right. So anybody who's logical is reading that goes, that's an endorsement. The problem is that Senator Jackson never gave that endorsement, never expressly gave permission to use his photo and run that type of quote, according to his own statement and statements he's made to leaders in the community, like the chairman of the local Democratic Party, other people I know that are close to him have all spoken to him, and he has expressly admitted that he did not give this permission.
Well, let me be generous because I like Alfonso. Okay. Alfonso is a neophyte for sure
in politics.
In politics. And he's been working hard. So if he was at some meeting or lunch or event and Johnny Wiltshire was there and Senator Lester Jackson was there and he shook their hands and Lester said, "Hey, you're a great guy, and I wish you all the luck in the world." I guess it's possible that in a neophyte's mind, that's tantamount to an endorsement. I'm trying to be charitable here, Chuck.
I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, it does not make it an endorsement. Don't get me wrong. It is not, nor will it be an endorsement, particularly after the senator came out and said, I didn't endorse him, but I can understand how a new person who just moved into the district just got it wrong. And mistakes happen, and it is a mistake. But of course, you could say, well, with those sorts of lapses of judgment, how would that play out, when he's deciding policy for the city of Port Wentworth? I just want to put it out there that It could have been an innocent mistake, and it's
So,
probably,
all right, so let's debate that issue. If it was an innocent mistake, it's been. I'm looking at Dr. Lester G. Jackson, state senator's Facebook page, right? 2,000 followers. There's a message 21 hours ago, announcing that it was not authorized as an endorsee, and that he had spoken with Mr. Rabeau and requested for him to release a statement. And it ends with Mr. Rabeau and his team are keenly aware of my stance and the release of this statement. To me, if it's an innocent mistake, then
you jump on it
and you get out ahead and you go, look, I had a good lunch with the senator, and he said that he was glad that I ran and supported my candidacy as a benefit to the community. I think if you do that, I think none of the backlash ever comes about. Right now, admittedly, first off, everybody should know John's not the only moderator of the page. At any given time, it's 3 to 5 of us, right? And admittedly, maybe we went a little too far with the backlash, but there's no public statement. If it's a simple mistake, let's own it. Let's own it and move on. But when it's in the last week of a campaign and you're sending mail to residents of that district who think that the state senator is endorsing you and is telling you as a voter to support this candidate, and it's not true, it's got to be called to the carpet, and it's got to be, it's got to be nipped in the bud. It's just because that just can't happen.
Well, I don't want to belabor this point, but let me conclude by saying, if a swift and clear-eyed statement had come from Alfonso's campaign, apologizing for the confusion and the miscommunication, it would have been the right thing to do, and there wouldn't be. I'm trying to give him some advice here, I guess, and say you got to own this as a mistake and get past it as fast as possible. But didn't Alfonso say he'd have a retraction or a statement?
We were told that was going to come out today. I never saw it.
Okay, well, if it's out there, somebody send it to us,
please. If it's out there, send it to us, because the quicker it gets put to bed, the quicker it's not an issue anymore.
Yeah, and until it's handled properly, it's going to remain an issue. So,
yeah, and again, I understand he's a neophyte, but he's not a true neophyte, John. He's like Antoine. He's been around.
Well, he's a grown
leader. Yeah, I'm just saying, I feel like, let's look at this one more time, because John, that flyer right there. Now, you worked with a very well-known political consultant at one time named Dave Simons, right?
Yeah.
Back in another life, right? And that looks like his work, right?
We don't know that it is, Chuck.
I'm not saying it is. I don't know 100%.
I want to be real clear. We don't know.
We don't know it is. But it just, if I was Dave Simons and I was worried my candidate was going to lose, right, I'd advise to throw a Hail Mary, put it out there, get it out there, let's see what happens, because by the time the backlash hits, maybe you've already got the votes to win. I don't know what the strategy is behind it, but clearly
Alfonso produced that himself.
Maybe, what I don't, all I know is that the state senator released a statement that he didn't authorize it. I mean, that's pretty definitive.
His statement didn't seem too happy.
No, it's curt, extremely curt.
Yeah.
I mean, normally, unless there's a smooth guy, Senator Jackson's a smooth character. I don't always agree with him. Lord knows I've called him out in the past, especially about HBCUs and stuff, but, he does get it right a good amount of the time, and nobody can be perfect. you know. So I just, it's just this October surprise of this election season for sure. Really threw everybody for a curve that's paying attention to those elections.
It's a self-inflicted wound, Chuck, and that's the tragedy of this. And who's to say he's still not in the race? We'll know Tuesday night, but he certainly didn't need this at this point, and it is self-inflicted. So I'm sorry to see it happen. It wasn't. It was completely avoidable. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, moving on. Let's move on to our second topic, which is, I had wanted to at one point put a whole show together about this, but it's not the hill I think we should die on by any stretch of the imagination.
I don't want to die on any hills.
I hear you, John. I don't either. I mean it metaphorically, obviously. Okay. We've got the election that everyone is voting on Tuesday is the referendum election for ESPLOST. This is to raise approximately 400. I just voted this morning, so I read the whole thing. This is to raise 410 million over the 5-year collection period. Yeah. And I think there's one or two schools. There's Windsor Forest, one or two schools mentioned, and then technology costs. So last week, former Senator Diana Harvey Johnson, love and respect, much love and respect. She's the leader of the Hungry Club Forum. They had a forum on this. It was all pro advocates. And then in the last few days, I noticed that, friend of the show, friend of the committee, Julius Hall, founder of ATR, was running this spot. So let's take a look.
ESPLOST is a win-win-win for Chatham County. Our students win and will continue to win because better schools enhance learning and produce better outcomes. Local workers win because over 72% of the funds have been invested with local firms to complete projects that benefit all Chatham Countyans. Our taxpayers win because over 1/3 of ESPLOST funding comes from those who live outside Chatham County. Your yes vote for ESPLOST will continue the winning for those who matter most. Today's students and tomorrow's.
Boy, that's fancy.
Where do you begin?
That's smooth. The graphics pro level, the children at the end with the different classes. I mean, that is some very good marketing.
Yeah. Well,
look, I don't have a problem with the idea of ESPLOST. Go ahead, John.
Okay. Here's Wrigley Field. When was it built, Chuck?
1908, 1910, maybe.
I mean, 100 fucking years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's still there. It's.
They have to maintain it and renovate it. I'm sure. Yeah.
Of course. Where I grew up in Los Angeles, Dodger Stadium. It opened in 1960. Or 61, and it was a major undertaking. And when I watched that playoff series there, I mean, I felt very nostalgic because I was there opening season.
Wow.
as a 9-year-old, right?
Wow.
No, as a 7-year-old. The point is, it's a majestic, beautiful, terraced, curving, mid-century, beautiful stadium, right?
Right.
Why do we tear down Windsor Forest High School to build a new high school? It's not 30 years old.
I mean, look, obviously ESPLOST is needed because we have to build we had to build New Hampstead. That's an additional high school, not
new additional high schools. I fully understand, but this ESPLOST, so much of it seems to just be a contractor's slush fund to tear down very serviceable schools
or schools that need upgrading instead of rebuilding.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's a school out there that can't be retrofitted. We want to scrape them down and
all the way down.
Yeah, and rebuild them. So that's observation number one. Observation number two is the ad talks about 70% of the SPLOST money going to local companies. Okay, I get that, but I want to know your definition of local companies. I want to know, is there a WMB, Women and Minority Business Development arrangement in place? And are they getting 5% of that 70%, or are they getting 50 or 70% of the 70%? You know what I mean?
So I'll try to be fair here.
Okay.
Before our current superintendent took the reins, there was extraordinary abuse of this system. Of the ESPLOST bidding system, yes. I know that to be a fact.
Okay.
Right? Both from contractors I know and have done business with, and political insiders that have let us know and shown us documents. So, I do think that with the addition of Mr. Bozeman under Superintendent Ann Levette, I think that's gotten better. I don't have the video clip, but last week, Denise Grabowski, who is the school board member for District 1, I'll throw her up on the screen here.
Worked with her for years.
So she was on this Hunger Club forum, right?
Yep.
She's a developer, right? Or a consultant for developers.
Yeah.
Is probably the better phrase, right?
She came out of the MPC.
Sure. So she said on this forum last week that we have to push ESPLOST because we have to make technology investments into our children, right?
All right.
And I've asked the Ministerial Alliance this question. I've asked other school board members this question. If we have to invest another penny sales tax into technology, why should we be rewarding a school board that chose deliberately not to deploy that technology in August during the height of the Delta variant? There's an argument to be made that they killed people. I'm just saying. I'm not here to say that this is definitive, but I think it's at least worth discussing. They chose not to have online school during the height of the pandemic. Our mayor, as you saw and will see shortly here, very focused on COVID, right, John? This is the COVID terms, the COVID administration.
Obsessed.
Yes. So how do we square that leader, an enigmatic, charismatic, just sucking all the air out of the room leader like Van, who's pushing this, and then turn around and reward a school board who made decisions that directly fly in that face? I just think it's a fair question, no?
Yeah. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I'm going to give you a different thought.
Give me the different thought.
Point 3 on ESPLOST.
Okay.
This school board, if there's anything that they should be doing, there's nothing more important than them going to the delegation and saying, "Look, we're rebuilding schools that really don't need to be remodeled and rebuilt. What we want is for you to go to Atlanta, and we want you to lobby for a change in the enabling legislation, the law that permits SPLOST collections. And with regard to the school board, we want to be able to have 15 or 20% of the SPLOST money used and available for teacher salaries."
Shoot, hopefully more than that.
Well, what's 20% of 400 million? $80 million.
Yeah,
I think we could. I think we could
not have a bus driver shortage for 80 million. I think we could. You know what I'm saying here? Like, there's a lot of things that money could be doing.
Best teachers to go to the toughest schools because it ain't worth it to them.
You got to make it. You have to incentivize them.
Exactly. So
I don't know if I've told you about this before, but there was a study in like a Tennessee school district where they took, quote unquote, the 5 best teachers from the best school and then traded them with 5 new teachers in a really poor performing school. Right. So in a year, the teachers that came from the poor performing school picked up better practices and, trades. Part of, they became better teachers because they were around more qualified teachers, right? And then the 5 teachers from the grade school, for the well-performing school, they inflicted all this learning of the other teachers at the poor performing school, and both experiences end up working out. We've got to incentivize the most qualified teachers, master's degrees, people who can go into our poorest performing schools and make a real difference. Simultaneously, what we really need is the city offering wraparound services, to those worst performing schools, because where are they? They're in the hardest hit poverty areas, Savannah, Garden City, primarily, right? It's West Side, it's Groves, it's Myers, it's Mercer, it's West Side and East Side. It's very obvious. Yeah. But this isn't the conversation that's being had around SPLOST. The conversation is this will keep your property taxes low, which is laughable over the years here, right?
No, we just keep getting rents jacked up because commercial property has no Stevens Day stable value. And we're creating a larger problem for the affordable housing crisis. So, to summarize here, Chuck, the best things that they could be doing to improve the future of the Chatham County school system in terms of educating all kids in a really solid way, they're not doing. And that's going to the delegation, linking up with other counties' school systems, whether it's Effingham or Bryan or Liberty, and creating a little powerhouse satellite network that drives to Atlanta and drives the notion that 10, 15, 20% of future ESPLOSTs can be used for teacher salaries. That they're not doing that. The only people that are generously enhanced by that $450 million is mostly civil engineers,
contractors, attorneys, civil engineers, contractors, developers, and
the trickle down, to the kids, it's minimal. So if you want to hold out ESPLOST as a
it does nothing to reduce class size. Do you know that of some of the single greatest indicators, poverty background is number one. Do you know the second most one is class size? I mean, taking that 80 million and reducing in the worst hit areas of Chatham County, the class size should be well below the national average. That's the problem. There's not enough one-on-one time because those kids are coming. They're starting the race from being behind, right? Because they're from a poor and impoverished background. It's not their fault. We've got to invest more into those areas to balance out the outcomes.
Yeah. And in case anyone is new to the show and new to Savannah, Chatham County, footnote for your reference, 33% of the school-age children in this county go to private schools. They do not participate in the public school system.
That's right.
So you got problem layered on top of problem layered on top of problem. So enough on ESPLOST.
All right, John, this is a surprise for you, and I only got one of them.
Okay.
But I got a quick pump it or dump it, all right? Your laugh was so funny. All right, John, pump it or dump it. Savannah's hockey team is called the Ghost Pirates.
I'm going to pump it, Chuck.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Maria brought me a copy of Midnight in the Garden, Good and Evil. Now, I read that thing 20 years ago.
Sure.
Okay. And it didn't resonate with me because I hadn't been here long enough.
Right.
Now, man, we're going to have a whole show in the future, Chuck.
We should. I should reread it.
Yes.
I should reread it as well.
Yeah. Barrett tells exactly how fucked up. So,
everybody here is drunk and armed, right? New York is boring.
Yeah, and all they want to do is, I think he said, when you go to Atlanta, they want to know what school you went to, and when you go to Charleston, they want to know what your family did, and when you come to Savannah, they want to know, what do you like to drink?
What do you want to drink?
Yeah. So anyway, I say Ghost Pirates fit right in line with the whole Barbary Coast founding of this enclave of nonsense and weirdness. So,
well, I just thought it was funny that your old friend Adam Van Brimmer, says that the name is Ghastly.
Never mind. What?
He just said that the name was Ghastly and it was fit for Disney. I just thought that was funny. It's actually not a bad headline, but
I mean, it could have been. Let me be. Who's a famous optimist? I can't think of one.
Isaac Asimov.
It could have been a hell of a lot worse. So I'm okay.
Sure.
With Ghost Pirates.
And look, we thought Savannah Bananas was horrible, and it turned out pretty well. So at the unveiling, it seemed ridiculous, and that's exactly what they were going for, and it worked. I wonder if the ECHL team here is going to try to adopt some of those tactics from the Savannah Bananas as more of an entertainment league.
They better.
And also, too, this is so tough about it, is that for this hockey team to be ultimately successful, it just means like more gentrification of the city, and that's tough. It's tough to swallow.
Well, the mayor's recognized that in his State of the City address. We're going to come to that.
Let's get into that here in a moment. It's a good transition topic into it. I didn't cut all of it, especially the parts about the arena or anything. Yeah. But for those, go ahead, John. Go ahead.
I have one footnote on the pump it or dump it question.
Oh, sure, on the arena hockey team.
Yeah, and it's just a little insider thing. Maybe you'll appreciate it.
Sure.
For the last 3 or 4 years, we spent an awful lot of capital and energy telling people the arena is a loser. The arena is sucking out all of your sales tax revenue that could be going into other neighborhoods to do great things.
Affordable housing.
Yeah, you're concentrating it all in this one tourist project, which is what it is, 99%. And what do they keep telling us, Chuck? What do they keep telling us? Palumbo said it. The mayor said it.
On budget and on time. That's what I'm hearing.
But they also said, do you remember them saying that ship has sailed?
Yes.
Okay. That was a steady refrain of, boys, you're too late. That ship has sailed. And they said it kind of snarkily. And
Sure.
One day I said, you know what? That ship has sailed, but it's a fucking pirate ship.
And you're right. You did call it a pirate ship.
Yeah. So to call it Ghost Pirates, I'm kind of gratified in a sort of.
That's hilarious, John. I had not made that connection to you calling the ship sailing a Ghost Pirate ship.
I'm gonna quote my good friend Alicia Blakely Miller. Bam, baby.
Bam! I think John McMaster's prematurely named the future hockey team. I think it was good foreshadowing. Now, not going to believe at this point, but the real next battle is going to be the Canal District, right? Because, John, the arena is scheduled to open January or February 2022. That's in about 4 months.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep. Everybody's going to take a shuttle bus over there.
For now,
yeah,
right? And I would imagine, John, that by the end of 2022, this is my prediction.
Okay.
By the end of 2022, council, staff, maybe even the city manager are going to be hard recommending serious investment into the Canal District as a way to make sure the arena works.
Well, that's a prediction?
Yeah.
No, man, that's reality.
Well, I would have said it might have taken them a couple more years, but I think they're going to hard press it quick. I think they're going to make it an election issue, actually. This is my point.
Listen,
because how can they go into re-elections with the arena having been failing for almost so if 2022 fails, it's our first year coming out of pandemic, right? But if going into the election year, if by halfway through the year the arena is still failing, I mean, that's just not going to sit over very well, is it?
Well, Chuck, you know they're probably going to say this is COVID fatigue hangover, and we just need to get a little distance between us and the pandemic, and people will. But I agree 100%. Canal District is going to get ramped up, and I hope people will understand that whether it's the arena or the Canal District, all of this was by and large almost exclusively to ramp up tourism capacity in the city of Savannah. This was not quality of life, neighborhood safety motivated. This was the boys at the chamber told Otis, back in 2005 and 6, we need an arena. We see the future. And
so let's just, all right. And this is kind of, again, commenting on the State of the City speech as well. When they keep saying it's on time and on budget, I want to say, John, whose time and whose budget? Because if you go back to those, you uncovered this during the city elections, John, 2 years ago, about the original ESPLOST language on the ballot. The original language was an arena, $45 million.
Yeah, 2 words out of 3.
2 words and a solid $45 million. To date, John, this arena is $167 million. And first voted on in 2006. Right?
Well, I mean, do you really, Chuck, I'm asking this seriously. Do you really expect a telegenic mayor, that's a euphemism, is going to come out and say, this was a $45 to $60 million project that's $165 million now and 10 years behind schedule?
It's not very fun.
No, but
it's the truth.
There is a way to do that, and it requires a little bit of art and a little bit of finesse, but you can wrap that up with a nice bow and take credit for it and still be honest with people. And that's my problem with it, is we're being told water isn't wet, and that we're gaslighting and we're wrong.
Yeah, I noticed that he said you were gaslighting, John, which I just think is hilarious, because a lot of people would accuse the mayor of that on many different issues.
Yeah, coming from a teleprompter mayor.
Oh, that's a good one, John. Oh, that's so good.
I guess I'm a gaslighter. I'm sorry.
I don't think so. I mean, we've been called worse. We've been called colonizers. Come on, man.
I've been told Delta has flights leaving every other hour.
And get on one. You're welcome to go get on one. No, I feel you.
Jones, going back a ways.
Yeah, I just, let's get in. For those of you who don't know, Mayor Van Johnson gave the State of the City speech this week. It was last night, John, on the 27th, Wednesday night. I just want to say before, because the clips I got from the version they posted today, the live broadcast, this is purely a technical criticism. The quality of the live broadcast, video and audio, was horrendous. It was, I can't imagine the mayor was happy. I'm sure he was not happy about it. Again, that has nothing to do with the substance of the speech, but just purely from a technical broadcasting. John, I had to put the speech on my big screen and turn the volume all the way up to 100 to be able to get it while it was live.
Does it distort?
No, like the version I'm going to play for you now is a recorded version with a better microphone, right? But the live broadcasted one did not have that quality for whatever. I don't know. I don't know how to do any of this. I barely can use StreamYard. We're just figuring it out usually. So I just thought that was kind of a disappointment for, like you said, such a teleprompter mayor, such a very well-defined communication style that this mayor brings.
He's obsessed with packaging and
yes, and this was not very well packaged. So that's just the first thing. Again, the clips I'm going to play are not of that same quality. I think they had a cleaned up version of it ready to go today. But I wanted to mention that. So let me get into a clip or two, and we'll stop and discuss, all right?
Yeah. The council insisted on maintaining all services throughout the pandemic, and as a result did not reduce any services or lay off any employees. We continue to monitor the economy closely, and we will take a multi-year planning approach to our 2022 budget and beyond.
So that's funny. And later on in the speech, the mayor admits that oh wait, I gotta go up here for it. Where is it? The mayor admitted, John, that recycling and yard waste have not been picked up very well. So he starts off the speech, no services have been reduced, and then literally 30 minutes later has to talk about recycling and yard services having been reduced because of market problems with recycling, other things. That was like the very first clip that I pulled. Yep. Because it was the beginning of the speech, and I just thought that's just simply not true, right?
No, take a look at the Ardsley Park page.
Any day of the week,
there is always comments about either recycling not getting picked up, regular trash not being picked up, and dry stuff not being picked up, and to say otherwise sort of defies logic.
Especially in the same speech. I think if he had said, for the most part, we've maintained a core critical level of services, I'd even accept that type of nuanced statement, John. But that statement was such a definitive, we reduced no services. How many police officers are we down? Before we go any further, John, zero mention of the police officer shortage in this speech.
Crime.
Well, no, he talked about crime in the end part. He went through the statistics. Yes, he said that we're 1 over this time last year. I think it's 2. I think we're 2 over where we were this time last year. But not that that's a huge difference. Not gonna nitpick over 1 or 2 murders here, right?
But Chuck, let me stop you.
Yes.
This is the second year of their administration. Okay.
Correct.
What happened at the end of their first year of administration? Crime was up 30%. Homicides were up 30% over
the previous year. Yes.
So to say that we're only 1 or 2 above last year says you failed last year and we're failing just as badly.
I'll give the mayor a little bit of leeway here, right? Okay. I'm not going to blame him for the increase in his first year. That's hard. It's COVID. I get it. I am willing to be reasonable with grading this mayor, John. I really am. There has to be some leeway for COVID. There just has to be. But you just pointed it out. The failure is this year. The failure is the fact that we're worse by 1 or 2 already now than we were the year before. That's the failure. I don't blame him for the 30% rise between Eddie and Van, right, John? That's COVID. That's 19 to 20. That's a unique, once-in-a-100-year event that caused crime to go up nationwide, especially as unemployment benefits rose and fell, right? You see this correlation where there's been a lot more murders since the extended unemployment benefits ran out, in June and July in Georgia. They took them out early, So again, I just don't. It's not like I blame him for every part of it, but to say that you're holding the fort of failure.
Who's to blame is an entirely different discussion. That
correct.
You're happy to have. The issue here is we're getting snowed by the mayor in spin and hyperbole,
gaslighting,
and it's like the guy's a Dale Carnegie course on steroids. Okay. And by the way, Chuck, we got all the 3 viewers.
I know a certain candidate in a special House election that was the first enrollee in that course.
Okay, well, we could be over at Pinky's having this conversation.
Sure.
So,
I mean, I'd love to. We should do that soon. All right, let's take another look here.
The city organization also stepped up to help smaller businesses thrive. In response to the pandemic, our city's economic development staff contacted over 3,000 small local businesses to share recovery resources and to provide support. We also watched and stewarded public funds very carefully. The city's finances and reserves remain healthy and stable, so we expect to fund all current obligations fully.
All right. So, talking about helping small businesses, right, John?
I know.
Go back. You already know where I'm going with this. You go back to before Joe Biden got elected, right? You have the first CARES Act funding that was passed under the Trump administration in response to the pandemic, right?
Yep.
So this is going back to 2020. And you'll recall, John.
$11 million.
Yes, but specifically, I want to talk about the $2.9 million that was set aside for local small business assistance and was given to the SBAC's own clients, right? So for this mayor to stand up there and say we stewarded carefully funding for small businesses.
Okay, so you would have preferred him to say, let me try this, Chuck. That first download of free money.
We hooked up the Chambers people. Let's be real, folks.
We kind of helped our friends out, but we got so much shit for it. We really did better with the next batch.
What's that movie, John? This reminds me of what's that politics movie from the 90s that's got Halle Berry in it? Bullworth. You ever seen that movie?
No.
All right. This is a project. After election season, we gotta do like a midnight episode, and I want to do some political movie episodes because what you just described is kind of part of this plot of Bullworth, which is a 1998 movie about a California senator. You'll love it, being from California. We'll come back to that. But again, I like this game we're going here. This is what he's saying. Here's my problem with it.
Yeah.
What should he really have said? Let's do another one of these here.
And while we still have some significant financial gaps to close, we believe that the American Rescue Plan funds should allow us to do just that. The city of Savannah will receive a total of $55 million from the federal government in accordance with the American Rescue Plan Act. Savannah received half of these funds, about $27.8 million in May, and we will receive the remaining half in May 2020. I will champion using these funds to help us make significant progress toward a $15 minimum.
So, $15 minimum wage. Let me play this next clip.
County has had an estimated this summer. The city council voted to maintain the current millage rate, and the city used this as our opportunity to deliver on our promised pay raises for the awesome members of Team Savannah who have worked and performed admirably during the COVID crisis. All eligible city employees received a 3% raise retroactive to July the 4th, 2021. This move amended the city's 2021 operating budget and cost an additional $3.5 million. In my opinion, this pay increase was well-deserved, long overdue, and money well spent.
So, as we discussed previously on an episode, we discussed this with Keisha Gibson Carter. I'll try to look through some of the episodes and link to them. That money for those initial raises, John, is primarily being paid for by low-income renters whose taxes are going up via non-Stevens State property. So everybody who rents property, whether it's small businesses or residents,
their rental rate.
The rental rate's going to go up.
Or going up. Yeah.
You as a landlord, and you're an experienced landlord, you're going to have to raise the rents to compensate, and it's not going to be a dollar for dollar match. So, two issues with those clips. One is obviously they raised taxes on primarily low-income people, and used it to offset it with raises. a lot of those people in city council are probably those that will have their leases. I mean, in city staff will have their leases raised. I just don't see how that's a thing. I wouldn't tout it. You know, John, tell the people what he should really tell them there.
He should have really told them the truth, Chuck, and that is a recent study that's in my newsfeed today shows that to rent a 2-bedroom apartment anywhere in the city, let alone downtown, but anywhere in the city, you have to make no less than $19 an hour. Okay, that's number one. Number two is Van Johnson promised to do this in his first year. This was something he campaigned on, and to beat Eddie, he said, "I'm gonna do better for our employees because it's team.
I want to get the $15 an hour." Yeah,
yeah,
and we agree with him. By the way, everybody.
Yeah,
I mean, we agree wages need to go up in this city.
Well, of course they do. That's 97 page. Let me correct myself. The Housing Task Force report is not 130 pages. I misspoke. It's 97 pages. Okay, and in the 97 pages, there are 6 pivotal words that are the most poignant and significant, and those 6 words are: Savannah has a low wage problem.
Right.
So, out of 97 pages, we got 6 words of golden truth, but no discussion about ways to encourage higher wages in the private sector,
or to use our semi-government NGOs, all of our partners to utilize them to lobby for changes.
Well, yes, just acknowledging that the very benefactors that contributed to his campaign should be paying their workers better is the river Rubicon for this guy. He won't go there. So the issue, you're correct. The issue is not one of wage. We all agree with the mayor that city workers are underpaid. But by the time he finally gets around to doing it, lo and behold, it's $19 an hour is the new standard.
And they're jacking up taxes on non-Stevens State property, which is going to eat up. It's like the inflation argument, it's just eating away at those gains. So the 3% raise they just got is really like 0.25% net raise. It's nothing. It's laughable.
Time out. I want to interject an observation because I know there's more to go here.
Sure.
But let's all take a deep breath. Let's all find our inner point.
Our chi.
The chi. And understand that this was an elected official for the first district for 3 terms, Chuck, or was it 4?
Who? The mayor?
Yeah.
4 terms, 16 years.
4 terms. Okay. This is an elected official who in 14 years.
16, yeah.
16 years never really did anything.
He did a couple of things.
Oh, Chuck. Yeah, a stop clock is right twice a day. Okay.
Yeah, he decriminalized marijuana under Eddie's term. That was a good deal. That's a big progressive win. I give him credit for that.
Okay. Okay. A blind squirrel finds an occasional acorn.
This is true.
Okay.
This is true.
We're talking 16 years.
I hear you.
From his district, they'll tell you he showed up at all the fish fries and all the key events.
Well, he would be quick to remind us that he beat back that first district alderwoman back 4 years ago. And I mean, look, 12 years, 3 terms. Of course you won. You're an incumbent. Most incumbents win.
I'm sorry for the timeout, but I appreciate it. My
Absolutely.
only point is the fact that we're getting a State of the Union, State of the City address that is wrapped in cellophane for consumption. It is not too surprising considering the guy's history.
Yes.
He was a do-nothing but a star. And how you become a star and do nothing is fucking magical.
Absolutely. Let me play another clip, because this, right. I think these next 2 clips, they really speak to the core question of Better Savannah.
County has had an estimated $7.4 billion in taxable retail sales in 2020. The Parker College of Business at Georgia Southern University estimates that Savannah's economic growth this year will be about 4%. The Georgia Ports Authority continues to break records, moving 5.3 million 20-foot equivalent container units in fiscal year 2021. That's a 20% increase in cargo volumes in a single year. Gulfstream debuted 2 new business jets this year and announced thousands of additional jobs needed to manufacture them.
So when I heard this clip, John, I'm like, well, this just sounds like John and his main question of all this growth, all this prosperity, $7.24 billion in taxable sales in one calendar year, a 4% annualized growth.
Well, they're just piling on and supporting the argument that after 30 years of prosperity and growth, why do we still have the same poverty rate? There should be a little bubble or subtitle underneath after those comments that say, despite all this prosperity and record growth, we have no clue how to fix it.
Pretty much, we have no clue how to fix it. This just market, rapid fire of all these successes.
The argument that I'm waiting for.
Which one?
The retort that I'm just waiting, like a slow hanging pitch over the, center part of the sweet spot of the plate is this, Chuck. Well, imagine how bad we'd be, how much higher our poverty rate would be and our crime rates would be if we didn't have all this prosperity and growth. Consider yourself lucky, Chuck.
What'd you think about the children?
Yeah.
We can do this. Municipal development has been full steam ahead in 2021. We moved major capital.
Oh, I think that was the wrong clip.
He doesn't mention Como, does he?
No Cuomo. So that's when my clip started getting corrupted when I was trying to cut him earlier with you. But so he goes on here, John, and this is why I played the Broughton Street ad at the top of the broadcast.
Yeah, I saw that he lauded the Broughton Street.
Yes, he lauded the Broughton Street, and he said admittedly is behind, and it's necessary. And to please, honestly, half of this speech feels like it was written for our audience, John. I mean, it's like just addressing criticism after. Oh, sure. No, it's a joke that this thing is a year and a half behind. They're going to get to B Street Salon, in 2025.
26.
Yeah.
If they really do a bang up job, 25. Dan will be term limited before Broughton Street is finished.
Okay, so now I got to do the share screen mode for this last part of it here, because
we're going on an hour here.
This is that last part with impact fees and pilot and term limits, John. I think this is important. So let me do. I sure freaking hope so, Val. All right.
Your council is committed to finding additional streams of revenue to lessen the tax burden on our citizens. To that end, the city will be aggressively imploring our local Chatham County legislative delegation to support local legislation to move the Savannah hotel motel tax authorization from one state code to another. This will allow the council to increase the hotel motel tax as 81%.
Watch what he's going to list off.
76 communities in our state have already done. With a record number of visitors coming to our cities, hotels being full and enjoying some of their best days ever, I think it's only fair for our visitors to step up and help us fund the things that make our city better for people who live here every single day.
Now look what he's going to list off as things.
The Times Trail Urban Trail Network.
Urban Trail Network.
Better connectivity to Savannah with 30 miles of protected trails. A waterworks market to improve fresh food accessibility on the west side. Increase access to our coastal waterways on the south side. And the redevelopment of Savannah's beautiful riverfront.
That's right.
A hotel.
That's right. Let me pause it. Hang on. $20 million for a river. The single largest expenditure in the hotel motel tax expansion. The single largest expenditure is River Street.
It's going to go to tourism.
Yes.
How many locals do you know, Chuck, that go down to River Street today?
Very few. John, I live 5 blocks from River Street, and I don't go down there.
Chuck, I've been on River Street once in the last 2 years.
But, they'll come back and, well, it's the jobs. All those people who work down there. You mean for subpar wages?
Well, wait a minute. I'm going to wait for Tony Center to chime in and say, I go to River Street, so I think it's an investment in my community.
Oh God! Let me not chime in on the Center family tonight. I'll leave them be for now. But
that's my domain.
I hear you. You're friends with them. You can give them the ribbing. I'm not friends with them, but I respect them though. But I don't think they speak for us. I don't think they speak for the community.
Well, what happened to slicing off some funds for the Weeping Time preservation?
Oh, it's going nowhere with this mayor. This mayor does not want to preserve Weeping Time at all. He has no intention to.
Is it not part of our history?
I don't know. I would certainly say so myself.
Well, we certainly know they never taught about it in local schools.
Well, supposedly they didn't know about it until 2005. Although I will tell you, I have asked, I don't agree with that. I have asked people, I'm talking about old-timey people, black and white, been here a long, long time. People knew about this, John. I don't believe that they just found out about No Fire.
I refuse.
Now, maybe they didn't know it as the Weeping Time event. Maybe they knew it just as a major slave sale with the history, I mean, maybe they didn't connect those two things. But I feel like this thing had to have been passed down from generation to generation on both sides.
Oh, Chuck, I just got to tell you that new pavers and flower boxes on River Street certainly command more attention and importance than the Weeping Time.
And the question is for whom? Not for the citizens. Because as we just discussed, we don't go to River Street.
No.
If the average citizen, if they're lucky, goes to River Street one time a year, John. I mean, probably once every other year, like you just said. Maybe for some fireworks or something, once a year.
He's going to call River Street renovation critical infrastructure. Watch.
All right. I just want to watch on the last few minutes of this speech. I just thought were very telling, John.
All right. Before, and I want them to support it again. And I'm counting on them to do the right thing and let us get this done in January. If the legislative delegations of Atlanta, Columbus, Macon, Rome, and Albany can do it, I am not sure why the Savannah, Chatham County legislative delegation.
Direct call out to the delegation.
Let's get it done, and let's get it done.
Because you lost last year.
We're also committed
to more money to the Chamber of Commerce.
Right. All right. So this is the here's the impact fee part, John.
Fee structure to shift the cost of new growth from current residents and businesses. Impact fees will require new developers to pay their fair share of the cost of public facilities that we will need to add to such growth. We are also having career.
Like, I think this speech, John, especially this last 5 minutes, is a recognition that this policy agenda that we promote on Better Savannah is resonating. It's resonating. These two random privileged white guys putting together this show, talking about bringing leaders in from all over the county, from the state, they want to hold these issues until campaign time, John. They want to hold them as long as possible so that they can deliver on them in time and say, see, I delivered on your agenda. Vote for me for another term. I see it. Because let's be real. If Michael Brown wanted impact fees to get done, if Pat Monahan, who they lauded up, they held them up at the beginning of this speech. You can go back to this link, which I'll put in the description of the show. They hold these men who guided us until we got our savior in Jay Milder. That was how he led off the speech, which I agree with. It was a great hire in Jay Milder. But if we wanted impact fees to get done, they would have got them done already. They're halfway through the term. The term's halfway done.
I understand. You know? And term limits would have been already done.
So we're going to get to that. But listen to this next piece. Now, this is a snippet that Mayor Ban Johnson has dropped several times this year, John. And I want you to think on what is one of our most successful all-time ad campaigns about affordable housing at a certain college in town, right? Okay. All right. Listen to this clip.
Courageous conversation with our community partners who currently don't pay property taxes to share in the continued vitality of our city by making payments in lieu of taxes. Stay tuned about the outcome of those discussions.
Stay tuned. It's like...
Why doesn't he just say, and I really want to thank those two white...
for poking Scad the Bear so much that now they're asking to give us some money.
Yeah, and this isn't a net sum gain of we're right, he's wrong. He's bending to our will, and I welcome it, Chuck.
Yes, and I'm sure it must not feel comfortable to have to push these issues now. No, or maybe it does finally. Maybe he's seen the light.
I got a theory.
What's the theory?
It goes along the lines of what you and I have talked about privately of late.
Sure.
The row and romance in his band of merry men is frayed.
And a half.
Yeah, and a half.
Yeah.
So they realize that Van could disappear tomorrow to who knows where, higher office, retirement, whatnot.
Sure.
And they've not been allowed to have a voice on council because of Mr. Autocratic, right? He speaks for everyone at all times on all subjects. It's really kind of the Sun King mentality going on.
Sure.
So the pressure the back pressure in the system has come back to him, and they've said, "Man, we campaigned on SCAD paying its fair share. We campaigned on term limits. We campaigned and promised impact fees. We're at the halfway point, Van. If you don't start moving on these subjects, we're going to have to do it ourselves." That's my thought.
I certainly hope, and
I don't think he wants to do any of these things. He's been
on council for 20 years. You think he wants term limits?
I already talked about his 14-year do nothing, term, and you said, "Oh, well, he legalized pot."
I know. Woo. Hey, look, I just try to be a little fair. I try to be reasonable with the man. Okay, I don't dislike him as a person. I'm just not a fan of his politics.
No, he's slow. He's reluctant to do anything unless it's his idea.
He's mercurial.
Very mercurial. Yeah.
Very, very just. It's very Little Prince, Machiavellian. That's probably the best word. Extremely Machiavellian. Wants it to go the way he wants it to go, because in his mind he's got this little plan out there.
Let me ask you something, Chuck.
Yes.
Straight up.
Okay.
Do you think when he finished uttering those comments about we're going to move on impact fees because it's the right thing to do?
I think he's fucking laughing inside his head.
No, I think he's fuming. I think this the last.
Really?
Yes.
Ooh.
I don't think he believes in these things. All he believes in is himself.
Well, remember when Michael Brown came in from retirement, and it was like, well, Michael will spare the developers, but he might throw the chamber under the bus.
Yeah.
Right. Remember, he didn't really do either. Right. And here, this seems like a reversal. You've got impact fees being discussed. Now, let's jump a huge caveat. If we go back to, and you can look at this on a previous episode of Better Savannah, I got to find which one it is, when we looked at the workshop with Bridget Liddy and Heath Lloyd, John, right? When we worked, it was using a tax allocation district approach for impact fees. So we're going to cut these little areas in the Highlands and Bradley Point South out and use them.
Let the developer use the impact fees for the playground,
for the stuff that they're already going to pay for.
The stuff that they don't want to do that costs them money.
Sure.
Yeah, it was a builder giveaway.
So if that's what he means, I would say he's laughing because he knows he's going to be able to say, we got it done. If they're going to do impact fees under a Melder plan that is more in line with Sandy Springs and Smyrna and other cities we've researched, John.
Every other fucking city around.
Like every other city in the state. Like, let's use this as an example. Van Johnson, we just saw, compared our delegation to every other delegation that's maximized the hotel motel tax,
Let's see
right?
if our impact fees.
Where is that comparison to every other city that's aggressively put in impact fees to combat and manage growth? I think that's something that he should have to square away.
$1,000 per new house. Let's see it. That's what it is across the state.
Look, you know what? I was on the phone with somebody from Port Wentworth earlier today, and we were talking about port container fees and impact fees, right? And he said, look, I support. I just don't know what the number should be, Chuck. The guy was telling me, and this is a leader in Port Wentworth, not somebody who's up for election this time, but another person, right? And he's like, I think there's a debate. There should be a debate about the number. And I said, look, man, I'm happy for everybody to have a debate. We have zero impact fees right now. So if the debate is between $2,000 and $4,000 per single family home, or $250,000 and $500,000 per warehouse, to give a Port Wentworth example, right? Yeah. If that's what the debate is, that's fine. Just like if the debate about term limits is 2 or 3 terms. I don't think it really matters, ultimately, whether it's 2 or 3 terms. The point is that you have the restriction in place, right? Is that it's there.
Policy is step 1.
Correct. We don't need to get to $48 a container like LA Long Beach. We got 40 years before we get to that level. But if we don't start with $2, we're never going to get there. So like I just think that all of this is the state of the city speech I thought was fascinating. And I want to just play his ending here because it talks about what you just said, term limits.
All right. We are also working with our public school system to develop a memorandum of agreement to allow the city of Savannah to access and utilize schools.
And he's going to give a shout out to ESPLOST.
Needed services to our shared citizens. And I thank our school system partners for sharing our belief that school buildings are community centers and that we are all in this together. And I encourage everyone to go ahead and support the ESPLOST vote on Tuesday. Your council is also examining the institution of term limits and staggered terms for each member of Savannah City Council going forward.
Finally.
And we hope to have some recommendations to consider before the end of the year. We will also continue our march toward inclusion.
So I'll just stop it right there. If they get this passed in the session in the spring of 22, John, I'll be happy to give all of them a win. I really will. Okay.
How could you deny them? If it happens, it happens.
I mean, and the fact that the mayor highlighted this, I want to just say probably the best part of his speech. And now probably is the time to do it. Last year was COVID, right, John? Right. First year in office, emergency, global pandemic, unprecedented.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay. But now we're in year 2. This is why we're being critical about impact fees, because it doesn't look like they're going to get it done by the end of the year. They keep saying they are. It does not look that way. They got a budget retreat in 4 weeks, right? Or 5 weeks, the first week of December. They're supposed to have all this stuff voted on by the end of December. I just don't see it happening. But if they have term limits that get through the assembly, next year and the charter changes and going into 2023, we're going to do staggered terms. I don't know, John. I'm pretty pumped about that.
Yep.
And I'll give all of them a win. But it just remains to be seen as to whether or not that's going to happen. Any thoughts?
I want our viewers to understand that our objective is not to prove the mayor wrong.
He does that himself a lot.
Well, he does it to himself, Chuck.
He does. He does.
Our goal are the tenets and the basic core policies that we advocate for and have for the last, individually, last 10 years and collectively the last 3 or 4 years. And that's SCAD's got to pay their fair share. He claims the port TEU traffic is up 20%. I'll point out that means the port is up 20% in carbon emissions and heavy diesel.
Absolutely. It flies right in the face of that 2035, 2050 mandate for a clean energy city.
Exactly. And that affects everyone, but particularly our friends in Garden City. So
and poor Wentworth. Absolutely.
We're looking for policy wins, not wins against Van Johnson. And to the extent to which Van is now pivoting over to recognize the things that we have fought for years is a really positive thing. So
you're giving a perfect segue, my guy. Okay. So again, I want to watch the full, as much of this end of the speech because he's kind of speaking to that. And we know privately offline here, John, that there may be some softening on that side of the fence, so to speak, because like you said, people got to answer to their constituents. His coalition is all district reps. They're all district reps, even Estella. They all have to report back to a district, and those districts can't be too happy. So let's just listen a little bit more here.
Conclusion with the announcement of our Asian American Pacific Islander
freaking task forces.
We'll also explore the possibilities of diversifying our community with a soon-to-come tech task force. Tech is the way to go, and we want to go there.
We want to go there.
And finally, we will amp up our efforts to protect the most vulnerable in our community by creating more opportunities to house, serve, and assist the transitional and chronic homeless in our community, and to protect those trafficked from and through our city.
So I want to get to this last part in a second, but I'll just stop it there to just point out that this has got to be like task force number 14 and 15, by the time this term is over, it's likely that 1% of Savannah's population will be on a task force.
Well, he needs to start throwing up his Cash App again because they're going to have to have a Van Johnson presidential library to house all his task force reports,
documents and reports. And yes, no, I look, it's a criticism in terms of style, but also because most of these task forces are not substantial in terms of substance. There's a couple of things in the police, in the emergency services reform group. There's some good stuff in that one. Yeah.
The Affordable Housing Task Force, had 68 people appointed to it, Chuck.
Yeah, that's way too many.
It looks like a campaign committee in the making.
I've said this, it reflects the Democratic Party's caucus system. If you look at the caucus system within the modern Democratic Party, you have a veterans caucus, you have a disabled caucus, you have a black caucus, you have a Hispanic caucus, you have an LGBT caucus. Like, that's the style of it. And unless he's going to follow through with substance, I don't think it matters.
You're reading my mind right now because Van is a smart guy.
Very.
He is exceptional at strategy and planning. And he knows better than anyone that Savannah in the last 15 or 20 years, at least while I've been here, Chuck, has a history of commissioning reports and studies. They're usually to consultants.
Yeah.
And then nothing happens. So he's going down the same road. Now he's using citizens because there's this vicarious group effect of campaign support
Yes.
in election
Yes.
time. But that does not negate or eliminate the obvious thing, which is, are these going to be, on another bookshelf gathering dust like the last 2 decades of studies? I don't know how he manages that unless he figures he can run out the clock with do nothing until he's term limited.
My personal theory is they will hold these policy reforms up, and then if you just give us another term, we'll get them done. That's my personal theory. Let's just listen into the conclusion of this speech where he talks about working together.
So I guess I said all of that to say the Savannah is moving forward together. You have a committed council that is dedicated to serving you, even if we don't always agree on the best way to do that. But we are working to become the beloved community that I know we can be. And we will continue on focusing on being an equitable, inclusive, and just city government. It has been the pleasure of my life serving as your mayor during this time.
Sounds like
I just thank you
speech.
so much for your love. I thank you for your support. I thank you for engaging me.
You're welcome, Mayor Van Johnson. Just to respond to you, you are welcome, sir. I'm happy to contribute to making your administration slightly better for the citizens of Savannah. Yeah, it may be an adversarial relationship, but if it produces results, I don't think it really matters.
No, it doesn't.
We don't have to be friends.
Yeah,
we don't.
I got a good crop of them, and
sure.
Again, our goal is not to prove the man wrong. Our goal is to help him accomplish something.
And let's expound on that, John, because let's go back to 2019. I'll take the speech off, the pace now. Go back to 2019. What we were thinking, John, was, gosh, man, we're about to make Van the most successful mayor because we just delivered the most progressive council ever.
Exactly.
This city delivered this mayor 7 new alder people, John, and a majority Black female council for the first time ever.
Yep.
And we're 2 years in, a super majority of Democrats, for sure. I mean, all 9 would claim the Democratic Party at one point or another. Okay?
And frankly, all of them ascribe to our core policy objectives.
Where do you think most of them got it from, viewers?
Well,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, the Carter authorship is
look, Keisha Gibson Carter would be the first to admit before she ran for office, she didn't know about this stuff because that wasn't her world. They had to get up to speed. Absolutely. Yes, Dietrich, Linda, all of them, giving them tons of, this is the issues that people are caring about. And it was prevalent in like the Whole Foods storage debacle in District 4.
Not to mention $500 contributions.
I hear you. It does get a little personal when you go down that road. I get it. It stings a lot. It does. Yeah. But I just feel like his mention here at the end that we don't always agree on how to serve best. I think that's a little cheap. It undervalues significantly the division on council, I believe. We've been saying on our shows recently before the election season kind of dawned on us, John, about how the more things change, the more they stayed the same. Because Mayor Eddie DeLoach had a 5, sometimes 6-member majority. Now Mayor Johnson has a 5, sometimes 6-member majority. And that has not boded well for those 5 or 6-member majorities the last 3 straight cycles. Edna and her crew lost. Mayor DeLoach and his crew lost. Yeah. If past is prologue, the hand that the mayor is playing is a losing hand. So, ultimately, we are trying to help the man. If he would pivot and compromise on half of this agenda, there'd be a lot less to attack any of them on there for.
Look at if Nick Palumbo was mayor and he espoused and actually worked on the core issues that we believe so much in, I would be fine with that. I would support him. I would do anything and everything to make him successful. It doesn't matter who the mayor is. It matters that the culture of Savannah changes, and the way to change it is through ordinances, resolutions, vis-a-vis policies that are legal and binding and in everyone's best interest. That's what we not have.
I know that you are well-read, Mr. McMasters. I mean, you're a pretty well-read gentleman, okay?
On the subject.
But I would say that the history of America prescribes that it's our responsibility to do this. Citizens are supposed to be pushing their government to do the right thing, to redress, to have redress.
Yeah, government's job is to actively stand behind the plate and call balls and strikes.
Right, and if you're going to get up there after this revolutionary election cycle and go 4 years without any progress. Now, look, we're at the halfway mark. We're reasonable. Remember, first year is COVID, John. They failed a lot this second year, okay? They failed to get impact fees or term limits through, okay? But they say that they're working on them. If we're into year 3 next year and we don't have some of these things passed, well, now we're going through another election cycle with the county and the state on these same issues, trying to get them done, and city council hasn't fallen through for us. It just means that we have to find a new government to come in and and deliver these things. Just like we tried to in 2019. There's still time, though. And my hope is that this speech from the mayor is a reflection of what you said, John. It's a reflection of some of the members of his coalition of the majority on council, whether it be Curtis Purty in the 6th or Palumbo in the 4th or Dietrich in the 2nd, whomever, are finally coming to him with such pressure of, I'm not delivering for my constituents, and unless we can change and deliver, I'm not going to be able to be a consistent, reliable 5th vote or 6th vote for whatever it is on the agenda anymore. That is especially before Estella came back over a little bit more with the mayor, the power of being that 5th vote. I mean, I'm speaking directly to all members of council who are in that majority. The power you hold with being the 5th vote or 6th vote on any given issue, means that you should be able to deliver on these issues. You should be able to get them on. You are the 5th vote. Go call any of the older women at large or Benetta Lanier in the 1st district. All these issues that they'll co-sign with you to get on the agenda. You don't even need the mayor. But if you insist on working with the mayor, then use this opportunity to put pressure on the leader of your majority coalition, to get some change. There's opportunity here.
I think your assessments are good, Chuck.
Thank you.
I think they're well thought out. The logic is sound. And I'll just say it in shorthand. If the mayor and his majority take these critical pieces of SCADs, pilot fees, the port, term limits, and they treat it like Broughton Street, and it just plods along and doesn't work well, then they're all in trouble. So expedite your policy. We'll be fine if Broughton Street drags on, but you got to give us something, or you're not going to have our support or broad-based support for re-election.
And just before we move on real quickly, I want to remind our audience, this is not the first mayor we've done this to on State and City speeches. We used to pick apart Eddie's speech. I remember sitting next to you in the Coastal Georgia Center on one of his on the last speech he gave, the State of Speech. And he cried. Remember? He cried because his family was there. I mean, gotta love that man, Eddie Deloach, man. Just a super homebody, small town man. Just a great dude. Just was kind of over his head at the time, for sure, as mayor, I think. Very safe to say that.
Yeah.
I just want to end this week's show. This is our last regular show before the election on Tuesday. Turnout is abysmal. Get out and vote.
Yeah.
I mean, please, I'm very anxious about the results, John, because low turnout could mean one of two things. The campaigns and support we've done this year were either super effective or barely effective. I don't feel like there's a middle between when there's a low turnout. That's what I'm anxious about. Is that a fair?
Yeah.
You're a little anxious too, as the guru behind the curtain here a little bit.
Well, I will say that our messaging is better than ever.
Yes.
The addition of video has been big for us. I think our placement, that is our ability to target demographics through the Facebook algorithms, is never been stronger. So I feel very good with where we are with that. But to your point, a low turnout election, it's hard to tell how effective all of our improvements are going to be, because they're just not big enough of a sample to know, and it tends to favor incumbents in a low turnout election. So we'll see. It's been
my
fun.
thoughts are, John, is that the municipal races will not have as low a turnout as the countywide election turnout is.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
And my concern is that the House District 165 race.
165 is going to fall victim to the countywide.
That's my concern, because it's the biggest map, right? Yeah. Tybee Island, Garden City, Port Wentworth. These are small amounts. These are a few thousand votes total, right? So the turnout dropping 2% there is much different than turnout in House District 165 dropping 10 or 20%, right? Because of the size. And I guess I'm really just hoping that as many East Side people we know that, like the dentists, we know Dr. Meyer, kind of just shift their vote thought process based on what they've seen so far, It's really going to come down to turnout. But let me just be honest with you. If there's less than 7,000 votes in House District 165, I find it hard to believe that former Mayor Jackson is not going to be at 40%. If there's really huge drop off, it's hard not to see her getting that high. Now the question becomes, who's going to be in second place? Because I still don't think she can win it outright. I don't think that's possible.
I don't either, unless that vote count dropped to around 4,000 or 5,000.
Even then, I find it hard to believe that Clinton Young and Clinton Coward aren't both going to get 10%. It seems logical. Coward's the only Libertarian Republican candidate in the race. It's a wide open special election with both sides of the aisle voting. Clinton Young ran in the primary and got 37% a year ago. Even if 2/3 of that vote was just to vote against Mickey, that's still a good name ID to get to 10. And then, Antoine Lang is running a good race. He's working hard, working his ass off, I'm sure. You put 20 and 20 with him and Sabrina, and 10 and 10. That's 60% right there. So that's why I say I do think Edna is approaching 40, 36 to 40. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But I think that's not enough to avoid the runoff. The question is going to be, did enough, I think specifically women, turn out and put Sabrina ahead of Antoine Lang into that runoff? I do think it's between Sabrina and Antoine.
I agree with you. The hot action is Sabrina and Antoine, and
which of them is going to face Edna? I think that's the question that will be answered. So look, guys, I've got on the bottom here our instant access portals, patreon.com/BetterSavannah, bettersavannah.org. We'll reach out to you, make sure to add you to the private Facebook group, because on Tuesday for election night, that's where we're going to broadcast our live election night reaction. And then a week from now on Thursday, we'll do another reaction show for the public mainstream audience. We have done a lot this election season, way more than I thought we were going to do, if I'm being honest, John. I'm sure you would agree with that, actually. I hope that if you enjoy this content, you'll share it with your friends. If you've got, some spare change, it's as little as $5 a month through Patreon or bettersavannah.org. You'll get instant access. We had a Garden City reaction show. If you follow our public pages only, you'll notice we jumped from episode 64 to 66. It's because episode 65 was a members only show, which was a reaction to our Garden City show. Right after, we had Mona Lisa Monroe, special guest on to come talk about it. It was a great show. Encourage everybody to log on. And our group is growing. It's, almost 30, 35 deep. So, click on one of these links, get connected with us, and we will make sure that you get added into that group for the live election night. We'll probably come right around 8 o'clock, John, because I think that's probably when they'll start announcing. The super low turnout. How long can it take to count the votes, right?
Yeah. Well, not only that, Russell Bridges isn't there anymore. Keep it classy, San Diego.
You keep it classy, San Diego. We definitely. Sabrina German's still there. I have confidence that they will count the votes quickly. And if we come on to our membership group around 8 o'clock, hopefully by about 9:30. 90 minutes total, we'll be done. Now, I know the Braves are playing tomorrow. Or will they be playing Tuesday? Let's see. If they're playing Friday and Saturday, are they playing Friday, Saturday, Sunday, back to back to back?
Hold on.
Let's find out. Because then we're going to have to put a rule on the membership group not to spoil the Braves score during our membership broadcast on Tuesday.
Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, yes.
Yes. All right. So,
8 o'clock. 8 o'clock.
Nobody tell McMasters what the score is because he will have it DVR'd. But hopefully they'll be up 3-1 by then, John.
Yeah.
And, it won't be a must-win game either. So, go Braves. Yep. Go Donna Williams in Garden City. Go Joe Smith, Janet Hester, Gabrielle Nelson in Port Wentworth. Go Matt Kitchens, Elaine Magruder on Tybee, and go Sabrina Kent in House District 165, and vote your conscience on the ESPLOST. That's what I'll tell you.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Another great episode of The Books, John. I really appreciate you joining me here for a nice little classic Chuck and John episode after a lot of electioneering episodes these last few weeks, man.
See you at Pinky's.
I'll see you soon.
All right.
It's time for an adult to sit at the table.
Our city is a speed trap.
They're electing their friends.
They're all throwing each other under the bus.
It's totally dysfunctional.
It's just stagnant.
We have nothing for our young people, but it's just disheartening that a city of our size has such a high poverty rate. We just have to make smarter decisions. I mean, I'm all for the programs that are really meaningful and that's going to help the people.
But yet you're pushing people out of their community to put them where? It's time for the communities to start winning some. I want you to make our city better.
How you can put a massive warehouse in a residential community, and we've not had a leader to bring any type of unity. They're all throwing each other under the bus. Quality of life is so diminished. Keep the community intact.
In my opinion, Tybee hasn't managed growth very well. We still have a chance at bringing back our community. Tybee is definitely worth saving.
I just moved here about a year ago. There's a right way to do the right thing, and there's a wrong way to do the right thing.
My core values, which are compassion, ownership, right. We've heard a lot of empty, broken promises. I'm excited to be a part of the new Fort Wentworth.
Don't you think it's time for the city of Savannah to have an honest tourism management plan? Let SCAB start paying its fair share? And the hospitality industry needs to increase its wages? The impacts of new growth should not cost residents. All local elected officials on council and commission should have term limits. We're working hard to accomplish these policies. We need your help. Please contribute whatever you can, $5, $10, or $20, by going to bettersavannah.org. Donate. Thank you.